Hi everybody, welcome to Witness My Minis. I'm Peter, and today let's see where we can go with skin and metallic, oils and acrylics. This mini has been on my shelf for quite a long while, even since the beginning of my painting journey. It was originally meant to be a proxy as a butcher for my Ogre Kingdom's army. And we're going back to square bases, yes! But no Ogre Kingdoms? What the fuck?
At the heart of the Ogre tribes, the butcher stands as a grotesque symbol of both terror and sustenance. Clad in crude armor, adorned with grisly trophies of their conquests. The butcher wields a massive cleaver with a menacing prowess. The role extends beyond the mere act of combat. They are also the culinary artisans of the tribe, expertly preparing the spoils of war for their ravenous kin.
So when painting any kind of miniature, I always start with identifying the most important parts of this mini in particular. For this one, it was kind of obvious. The skin and everything that is going on with that. There's a lot of sick looking bubbles and warts, and one big sore that has developed into a big gaping maw across his chest. And the second thing, of course, is as usual, the weapon. Holding it in this really striking pose, it really guides the viewer to his creepy face. But more on the weapon later. Let's start with the skin. The first thing I do is apply some filters over the old Citadel that I sprayed 2 years ago. Skin can hold so many colors, and that goes for regular skin. Now let's talk about infected skin on a fantasy creature. The colors I use are inks and instant colors. Scale 75's answers to contrast paints, or speed paints if you want. I find them very weak, in lack of a better word. Weak. But in contrast to the contrast colors, they are very not saturated, and they don't cover at all very well. So for filters like this, perfect for this kind of work. Look at my finger on the trigger. This is how you make sure that you don't accidentally drown the mini in paint. Very important to work the trigger like this to maintain control, especially when working with these diluted paints. In this case, I use some sick yellow tones on the skin and a red blush looking color around the gaping mouth. You will find a complete list of all the colors that I will use throughout this process in the list down below. And while you're down there, please push that like button, and if you don't mind, the subscribe button if you haven't already. It really would make my day. Thank you guys. And then it's time for Citadel Contrast paints to shine when blocking in the leather. What? On a tabard apron? Yeah, let's go with that. For this kind of thing, Snakebite leather works really great. For the time spent, this actually looks great, I think. For a gaming fig, I would absolutely consider to leave it like this. But this is also a great base that we can build on. For this mini, this is not the focal point. I will not leave it as is, but as you'll see in the later steps, this is not where I spend my time. He is based on a 40mm base as the other ogres and doesn't leave much space but some simple texture paint. The rest of the army is trudging through mud, so I also use another contrast paint to quickly color the base. And then it's time for the secret ingredient of any skin color, the magenta oil wash. I dilute it with white spirit and make sure to cover all the skin parts in a magenta wash, trying not to get any on the other parts of the mini. This color in particular was a part of the Scale 75 Flow skin set. I know that I've said it before, but this is really the best part of any time painting with oils. The cleaning process. All the filters that previously was placed by the airbrush is still there, but blended and adding just the interest that I planned for. The oil really adds depth too, and the fact that the instant colors that I placed earlier is very matte, they are of course easily tinted by the wash. Therefore, I can really control how much of it I want to remove in any given place. If the surface had been glossy, it would have run into the recesses and would have been much easier to remove. Of course, there is times where this is what you're looking for, but that's not the case when we want to add interest and color variation. These makeup thingies is very good for this kind of cleaning. First of all, they don't leave any strands and they are also very soft and help in smoothing and blending everything together. I'll show the whole cleaning process, but I'll speed it up some. Also, as you see here, I have to turn it around a whole lot, so it wasn't always in frame. Sorry for that. This was the mini after cleaning. Compare him to the mini before the cleaning and after the cleaning. I mean, come on. After the cleaning step, it's time to make some value jumps by putting on brighter colors from the same skin set from Scale 75. I'll start with placing the paint where I want it. I have time, so I don't constrict myself to place one color at a time. Just like when working with acrylics, I just clean the brush before changing colors. Instead of water, I use white spirits for this. Like you see, I don't use a pointy or super sharp brush for this, since it's only the right shape and place that I'm after in this case. The thing about the green you see me placing is twofold. First of all, it makes sense. It makes the skin look more sickly. Secondly, it's the complementary color of the magenta that we already have all around the skin. I also place the same green in the shadow on the tabard or apron. Yeah, whatever. Unfortunately, I didn't get that on cam. After a couple of minutes and when I feel happy about the placement of the different colors, I go back with a different brush. A blending brush. I start with the colors I placed first. These have had the most time to set. I grab the edge of the paint and smooth them out. I really have to say that the Scale Flow paint is both matte and grabs the underlying layer in another way than the Artist Grades oil paints. I will experiment more with this, but my first reaction is that they dry faster and therefore you'll see me go a little bit rougher with them during this blending process. Somewhat rougher than I would have been with Artist Range oil paints made for canvases. Sometimes I accidentally grab the magenta wash that is still not dried in the crevices. And that's no biggie. I just have to blend that too. One of the tips when painting with oils is thick over thin and thin over thick. You'll see me go back and forth with this thin, thick and then blending brush. The most important thing with the blending brush is to never, ever, ever let it touch the white spirit. Just brush it off on a piece of paper.
Back in my stuff. Gun the sauce. Every chain. Makes me wonder everybody is sick. Back in my stuff. Gun the sauce. Every chain. Respect.
If you want to try out painting with oils, I have a beginner's guide for that. It mentions all the tools and the tricks that you need to start out. It should be in the corner right now. I wanted to try something different with this blade, something that I've never tried together before. So I start with placing a technical paint, Typhus Corrosion, a technical paint from Citadel. I do this on the middle part of the blade where I later plan to place some rust. This technical paint can really help you to easily add some variation of texture to your miniature. For this step, I'll use acrylics for two reasons to start with. First of all, I happen to have my favorite paints to make NMM pop, and I've kind of find that oil paints are somewhat dulled down when they've dried. The second reason is that this is not a goal of smoothness, not at all. I want this blade to be battered and scratched and have a lot of small dings. And I want it to dry fast so I can just keep on adding more and more interesting small details. I find that one of the most important things when going for this high contrast is to have a great white. In this case, I actually work with 3 different ones with different consistencies and different translucencies. Translucencies? I don't know. White ink, the white from Kimera, and white artist grade acrylic from Schminke. Blue steel color comes from Scale 75's NMM set, Abyssal Blue and Anthracite Grey. This will contrast great with the orange rust that I have planned for the middle part of the blade. I make sure to show the curve of the blade when making scratches and lines, and to place the bling white, the lightest part of all of the mini, on the top of that curve. And then it's time to add something I've never used in tandem with NMM before. I've only ever used it on TMM, and that with great effect, I must add. Dirty down rust. I'll shake the living hell out of the bottle. I can't stress this enough. Shake it like your life depends on it, and then shake it some more. This will really make a huge difference if this works or not. I place it on top of the texture paint, dabbing the paint and letting it pool. And in a matter of seconds, it looks like this. Damn, isn't that amazing? Next up, I'll use Roman Lapot's favorite tool, the toothpick. If you haven't heard, he has a great and very fun guide about the toothpick on his Etsy shop. Be sure to check it out to support a great guy and a great creator. I then add some droplets of water in places. If you never used Dirty Down before, let me just say that it reacts to water. This is also the third and so far unmentioned reason that I didn't paint the blade with oils, since I wanted to be able to work with water and dirty down on the rust parts. If you want to know more about dirty down and their technical paints, I have a video showing off the 3 different effects: rust, moss, and verdigris. It should be in the corner right about now. I go back with the trusted toothpick and some rust effect to clean up or dirty down the unnecessary scratches, depending on how you see it. Clean up, dirty down. Oh, I see. That's why. A day later, when the oils have dried, it's time for the last step with acrylics on top. I start with mixing an ivory color with the same contrast color that I use for the leather, and then I use it to highlight all the leather parts. Making sure to not do any lines, but instead working with a lot of micro dots along the edges with stippling, like a tiny little woodpecker. This step should not in any way take away from the previous ones, so try not to cover anything up. This step is instead intended to make it stand apart from the skin. Making it more readable is the goal. As I'm sure you've heard before, this is one of the most important things when painting something this small. Making it easy for everyone to pick it up and tell what is what. That the mini is readable and not just a blob of different colors. Edge highlighting has the same kind of purpose that blacklining does. It just works from different aspects. I also mix some very diluted washes and make some very deliberate placing on sores and around warts and bubbles, as well as the gaping maw across the chest. I also use sandry dust and later Ustabi bone to color the teeth. I flattened the brush and lightly touched them to pick them all out. Okay. While I highlight the face here, let's talk about the elephant in the room, or the frame, I guess. This mold line. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, this mini is from my very start of painting minis. And back then, I didn't even know what it was. And when I picked up this mini and started painting it, I saw it and I thought, what the heck, it's only for my army. This fact and the fact that I've started to film when I paint most of the time, I didn't know when I started to film this that I would be showing you guys this. Had I known that, I think I might have removed it before. Calm down in the comments, I know it's there. The eyes are so freaking small, I end up using a dark wash to darken the sockets down. Then I just dip my brush in a heavy body acrylic I have on my palette, and I quickly place some small white dots in the darkness. I do make the mistakes though to not go back to the palette between the eyes, and the paint don't leave the brush as easily the second time. And instead of realizing this, I press on harder and make a mess. But of course, it's not that hard to clean this up with the same dark wash as before. Last and one of the most important things, black base rim. So what did I use in this video? Oils, acrylics, both washes and contrast, and heavy body, technical paint. All the different tools and colors that I use is in the description down below. And if you didn't do it last time, please hit all the buttons and leave a comment. It really helps the channel more than you think. This was a really fun mini to paint. So here you have the final result, the ogre butcher of the Witness tribe. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time. Bye bye.